Ladies and gentlemen, I have a blessing for you today. I have watched this guy off and on over the years, just see him and just watching him just flow in and out of different situations and circumstances. And you know what the amazing thing about this guy is that he weebles, he wobbles, but he doesn't fall down. You know, every time he moves into a different situation or circumstances, he just keeps rising to the top. And I keep looking like what he's doing this now, what he's doing that now. He's so blessed. He is so blessed in every situation. Every time he rises to the top, he has this strong measure of humility. Like he actually wears it, but he doesn't own it because he knows that the owner is the CEO of the universe. This guy's
Amen.
name is Doug Worthington, defensive lineman for the Ohio State University. Man, he had an amazing 6-year career in the NFL, played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, 2010 draft. He was also with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Washington Redskins, San Diego Chargers, St. Louis Rams. This guy's been all over the NFL.
God is good.
Now what is so amazing about it is that he has taken this platform to invest in people, to pour into people, in particularly youth. I'm not going to get all into the weeds. We'll talk about that later on. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I present to you an amazing servant of God, Mr. Doug Worthington. Hey man, how you doing?
Hey, man, with that introduction, I'm doing a whole lot better. I appreciate you. You are a king. You are a man after God's own heart. So to be able to be in your presence, understanding what you're doing with your platform, and speaking the gospel, former athletes, former NFL guys that's just trying to make a difference however they can. It is an honor to be in your presence, brother. So no complaints on this side. It's getting cold in Columbus, Ohio, but I am blessed to be in these parts and just eager to serve.
You know what? It is getting cut. I had a conversation with one Raymond Harris.
Oh yeah,
He's telling me how he's migrating to Tampa. And I was so like, okay, I'm going. I'm going to
yeah.
spend like January, a couple weeks down in Tampa. So he challenged me on that. So
Come on.
it's about to happen. But you know what? I'm really interested because what I could not find as I was doing research and, having people like kind of poke around to find some interesting facts about you is your actual upbringing. And I would
Yeah.
love if you can just touch in on that hometown, high school, your actual progression, and when did you know you was going to the next level?
That takes me way back. Being from Buffalo, New York, very humble beginnings. I was blessed to have a two-family household until I turned 13. My dad and mom divorced, but my dad
Mm.
was still my best friend. I played on the other side of town from the little league that was literally down the street, the Kensington Panthers, but I played with a team called the Buffalo Vets that looked like the Buffalo Bills, really because my parents both worked really, really hard
Right.
and really, really early. So I was at my grandma's house at like 6 in the morning almost every day. So I do not mind getting up. I am an early bird and I've just been that way forever. But Buffalo, New York molded me, blue collar, see my parents work really, really hard.
Sure.
Was able to be around a lot of great sports.
Mhm.
Football is one thing, but I was, I love basketball as well. I played with the guy that got drafted right before Steph Curry. I know your audience is not going to know that off rip. I'll give him a second, but I played AAU with a guy named Johnny Flynn, who again was picked right before Steph Curry, and him, Paul Harris, Mike Williams, rest in peace, who was a phenomenal wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but also a great basketball player. So it was just a plethora of great talent. My best friend Rodney Pierce and Jeremy Hunter that we played high school together. My high school got closed. I went to a small black Catholic high school right around the corner from my house. It was about a mile and a half away. It had 112 people, and that included the staff. It was very, very small. The diocese actually had to close it down because it was taking so much money to keep it open. We played everybody and we beat everybody. We were a little black school. We had about 17 players on the team, and I wasn't even the best player on the team. We had a guy named Corey Graham who actually went to New Hampshire, who actually got drafted, and he actually won 2 Super Bowls. He won one against with the Baltimore Ravens, that Harbaugh Bowl, when he played for the Raisins, and then he also went to the Eagles and locked up Gronkowski and actually beat the Patriots that year. So I was never the best player on my team. That's why humble comes easy. I've always been a hard worker. Basketball, I was okay at compared to the people I played with. Football, I was just a little bit bigger, a little bit more physical. Buffalo gave me a lot of opportunity to be good in that sport. I was the first parade All American in like the first in like 12 years. I think it was a couple after me, but I went to a different high school. My high school coach, Jerry Smith, actually just got put in the Hall of Fame not too long ago and just won another championship. He'd been there like 30, 40 years. He is a GOAT. He's had so many guys in the NFL. I'm one of his players, but it was a big time program. We actually played and beat St. when I played for St. Francis. We used to actually come to Ohio and play a lot of ball. We lost to St. Xavier when they had a plethora of talent, one being Luke Kuechly was a linebacker for them, and then they had Robbie Shonoff as a quarterback who I actually played at Ohio State with. But just it was a great time, Buffalo, New York. It molded me, blue collar, and it is a prize of mine to say that I come from that area, and it is it's where my parents are still at. I'm still there all the time. I'm always taking my daughter up there. I have a great bond with a lot of my old teammates. One being Iliad Apollo. Dennis Apollo was actually an old wrestler who used to fight Andre the Giant. They got a restaurant up there who actually caters to the Buffalo Bills. So I have just so many relationships, and God has opened up so many doors. Just the people that were my coaches before and after in high school. I went to the same school as Leonard Stokes, who's down here in Columbus and Cincinnati.
Mhm.
That's a great mentor of mine. I played with his brother Lawrence Stokes, a plethora of talent from Turner Carroll, and unfortunately it closed. But we won a championship before we left, and we beat St. Joe's in the only home game that we had. Mind you, we didn't have a home field. We went and played away every game. They gave us an opportunity to play in the Buffalo Bills' old Rock Powell Stadium, which was actually about a mile away from that shooting that happened a few years ago at that food desert in Buffalo, New York. But we were able to play my only home high school game for them first 2 years, and we beat a program called St. Joe's, which was 500 boys, and we were 100 people. So it was great, man. I had a great career, little league, all the way up to high school, and then to be able to be blessed with scholarships from USC to Florida, and then picking The Ohio State University. It was just a rich experience, and God has really gave me a lot. So much is given, much required. So that's why I do what I do. But just reflecting, and it's everything.
So, out of everything that you mentioned, you know what sticks out, and I would really love for you to elaborate on. First of all, blessed,
Yep.
blessed.
Yes.
But there's one thing that you mentioned early on that kind of just hit me right in the heart. I mean, I don't know, maybe I need some deliverance still in that area, but you had mentioned that although your mom and dad divorced, you had
Yep.
a great relationship with your father, and
Absolutely.
that's so uncommon because you hear stories about the actual breakup, and then mom turns toxic towards the husband, and then she kind of plays the kid against
Yeah.
that, and you don't hear a lot of stories about the mom. Kudos to mom for just
Yep.
encouraging that relationship. That's number one. Number two, kudos for dad understanding the responsibility and jumping in there and to foster and to maintain that relationship. And obviously, you are the recipient of that. But could you talk about that? Because I really want to just nail that point uh, to the wall right now, that men, you have to step up, and women, you have to release that unto the men. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, that's very important. I think in coming to today's age, you hear a lot of stories about fatherless homes in our community, especially.
Right.
That's why we revert to the streets or sports. I was fortunate, along with a couple of my friends and a couple that didn't have it, the outcome was different. But to have a very active father. My father wasn't a father that just came to the games on Fridays or Saturdays, but he was in school on Tuesdays. He was at all the board meetings. He's my size. He has a deeper voice than me, and his voice still scares me to this day. It's just out of the honor and respect that I have for him.
Right.
So him playing a vital role is the only reason why I made it this far. And it's one of those things where I'm forever indebted. But I know a couple guys that had different experiences and had mothers that were genuine and worked it out and made that same story. I was just one of my teammates, Thaddeus Gibson. He has a completely different story than I. And he was just talking about his mom and what they had to endure to get to where he was at. And that was the strength and the things and the path that he needed to have to get there. So God has some ordained deliverances on all of our lives. And if we get as close as we can to him and keep fostering that relationship, he opens them doors. And he's opened up a lot of doors for me and a lot of the people that I serve with and work with and still frequent with. So I am forever indebted to my dad's relationship.
Yeah.
And I know how important that is. That's why I am the father I am today. But I know when it comes down to God's call on people's lives, regardless if you have the tribe and the village, he will still foster you to a place of getting leadership in so many different ways. If it's coaching, if it's, your teachers, you will find some people that mold you and give you some presence so you can get to the path that he needs you to take.
That's absolutely amazing. That's fire. I'm hearing you say that God can fill the void in any situation if you give the space for him to say, you know what, let's go. I love that.
Absolutely.
Man, that's absolutely fire. So here we go. Here we go. High school.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay. High school senior year, you're doing your thing. The scouts are at practice and they're on the phone. You're getting the letters because we used to have letters back then. So, you're getting the
Oh, yeah.
letters and you're looking at everything and this and that. Now, all of a sudden, you choose out of the schools that you mentioned. First question is, why did you choose Ohio State? Second question is, tell me about moving in to Columbus as a freshman. Tell me that. Tell me.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell you, going again to St. Francis, my second high school, had a plethora of amazing coaches. And one of my coaches was actually a tight end at Baldwin Wallace, which is Jim Tressel's school. So
Okay.
they were roommates for a time.
Hmm.
So when I was getting recruited, I think one of my biggest scholarships at first was Tennessee. And then soon as I started getting that type of noise, my D-line coach was like, hey, you already know where you're going. He was like, you're going to go play up in Ohio. My dad already told me I got family in Ohio, right in Springfield, and
Uh-huh.
some family in Reynoldsburg. And I was intimidated by getting the letter and then realizing they had 50,000 people on
Yeah,
campus. I
bro.
was like, I'm not, I don't know if I could get lost in the sauce. I don't know if I'm going to be in good in those 2,000 people lecture rooms. And then going to visit and seeing a stadium that was 100,000. I was just like, I'm not quite sure. My grandmother, she's not here with us no more, but she was understanding that I was like in Florida. It was more of a college town. It was hot. I couldn't experience that all year round. And then I was telling her like, "Hey, Grandma, I'm gonna take a visit down
Stop,
there." And she was
stop,
like, "You can,
stop.
yeah,
You're from Buffalo.
yeah.
Okay, you
I'm
are
from
from the
Buffalo,
cold.
right?
It's home of the buffalo wings and cold. So
And
how
cold."
can that even be an issue with you?
Right, right. But for me, I was thinking outside the box. I'm like, if I can be in some shorts and a t-shirt during Christmas time, this can prove well for me. But she told me, she's like, boy, if you want me to be in the stands, then you're going to be somewhere that I can come and travel. I'm not getting on no plane, so wherever you choose, make sure I can drive there. So I was like, all right, Grandma, I appreciate it.
That's
And
what,
again, Jim Trussell just had a very good rapport with my high school coach, and it was an easy go. But Penn State came knocking. Penn State came bringing facts, and I think that's when Maurice Claret and their issues started happening.
right.
So it was a little bit of a tide of just thinking, and I took all my official visits. But at the end of the day, I committed before my senior year, and I stuck it out. I still went to 5 visits, one being Florida, one being Boston College, because I love Matthias Kiwanuka. I thought I was the next version of him. One being Alabama, not Saban, but Shula, just coming off of sanctions. And the last was Alvarez and the Wisconsin Badgers. I just liked they had a Erasmus James and a couple D linemen that was on the front of Sports Illustrated. And I just liked the whole Big Ten vibe because if you was a lineman, you knew that you was gonna go to the Big Ten and get developed to be able to play in the NFL.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. But Ohio State stood true. All the opportunity in the world. Again, I had Southern Cal calling. And those papers you said, my dad used to actually get them all laminated. So I had over 30 scholarship offers, and he used to take them to work and they used to laminate them. So I still got all of those papers, man. It's crazy. It's a blessing. It's a blessing. We're a little bit of a hoarders, us Worthingtons, but
Yeah.
that's a memory that I'm very fond of.
Man, so now you're on the yard and it's the first day of pads and you like cry. I mean, I don't know
Yeah,
about you, but you hear those pads hitting the first day, you like, whoa,
man.
it's game on.
It's
So
time.
so now walk me through that progression. And then if I'm not mistaken, according to a little bit of research that I was able to do, there was an injury.
Yeah, yeah, well said. Yeah,
But from that, walk us up to that moment because a lot of people get lost in transition. A lot of
absolutely.
people, athletes get injured and they never come back the same. So you did the exact opposite. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, it was actually the exact opposite. Being because when I came to The Ohio State University, I was a parade All American, 30
Mhm.
some scholarship offers. They were saying like the second coming of the late, great Will Smith being from New York, him being for Utica. And I knew there was a lot of pressure, but competition in Ohio State was at a premium. And I realized day one that I wasn't the best person in my position, even in my class. It
Whew.
was a guy from St. Vincent, St. Mary's. His name was Lawrence Wilson, Lawrence Eugene Wilson, aka Buffalo Butt. The dog had legs and thighs and quads and muscles that I've never seen before. He was a basketball player turned defensive end with a first get off and just presence and just an all around awareness and athleticism that I've never seen before. And I knew day one that I had a lot of growing up to do, or I was going to go back to Buffalo, New York, and start working like my dad working. My dad works very hard. He works with his hands. His hands are dark. His face is dark from the ashes. He's a welder. He does anything. He does everything that the national grid needs him to do. He be up in doing power lines and putting up a whole bunch of electricity, or he's welding some stuff in another factory. So I knew in a early that I one I had to get my grades because I told my grandmother I was going to graduate, and then two I had to make sure that this opportunity being a parade All American. I don't know if you remember 50 Cent, and he had that one joint. My dudes was like, "Hey, bro, don't come back being a damn homie." I'm like, "A damn homie." He was like, "Yeah, damn homie." Like, "Damn homie." In high school, you was the man, homie. I'm like, "Oh man." So it was a 50 Cent bar, but I remember my guy Wani Todd, that was the smallest guy on the team, but he had one of the biggest presence. And this was my first high school. And he was just like, D1 Dougie, man, you going D1, but make sure that when you go, you actually make it. So I just knew
Wow.
that I had a lot of adversity coming in and not being as good as I thought I was. Seeing guys like Jay Richardson, and I was playing and getting and taking reps and being a backup and being a scout team player for Rob Sims and the late great Nick Mango. And they
Oh.
used to tear me up, man. They used to put me. We used to call it getting
Ooh.
baptized in practice. They used to literally
Ooh.
pick me up and be able to like just put me down into the water until I start getting better. But
Yeah.
they developed me, they made me better. They told me that I was good enough a lot of times when I didn't think I was good enough. And they really put a battery in my back, not to just be a football player, but to inspire people and
Wow.
to take care of your teammates and be a good person in the locker room and being a
Mhm.
good example because they were. I had a lot of great, juniors and seniors that I was able to learn from and be able to play with for a couple years. So Ohio State, like most relationships and most communities, just have a brotherhood that the time that we all got to frequent. And again, I can go down a list of the people that I play with. Some of them not here no more. A lot of them is not here no more, believe it or not. Some of them are locked up, and other ones are waiting trial. There's a lot of different characters on my team, but they all meant something to me, and they all were brothers. And we all, even the people who are, I reach out, we talk, we figure out what we can do for each other because that's what it's all about. And to be there as a freshman, to get that injury, but to know before the injury, I had so much work to do that the development of my mind started really being the focus point and realizing that if I'm going to be here, then that the 6 inches between my ears is going to really have to play a difference. And I'm going to really have to use these resources. I'm going to really have to get into this weight room and this film study and really take this serious. And that's not the first time I had to do it, but it was like the conscious first time I had to do it. And God did it for me because I don't know if I would have made it from Turner Carroll to the Ohio State University just because the development, the weight room at St. Francis, the programs, the community, the competition. I remember playing against Erie McDowell and playing against a guy named Kyle Mitchum who was had a North Carolina scholarship, and I was like, "Hey, I want to go to North Carolina because I want to be Julius Peppers." And I remember playing against a guy that was getting looked at, and I remember just giving him 4 quarters of hell just because he had a scholarship from North Carolina. And then eventually, I actually met him, and we played with each other at Ohio State. So it was one of those stories and one of those opportunities that God has always given me little glimpse of the future and glimpse of working with people and glimpse of what He has. I just have to carry it out. Getting hurt was just one small. okay, this is developing me for something bigger. That right there, I'm gonna go up to that point because even when I got that ACL, it right there helped me play the way that I needed to play for that 6 years in the NFL.
So I don't want to skip over the fact that you had an MCL and an ACL. Okay,
Oh yeah.
and for people who don't know, like MCL, okay, you can come back off that real quick.
Mm,
ACL, that's a different. That's the outside. That's the outside of the ligament around the knee.
yeah.
And for a defensive lineman, that's serious right there. So when you felt that pop, when you saw that, when you got the diagnosis, what was your mindset and how are you able
Mm.
to pivot from that?
Again, I remember the crazy thing about this was actually during bowl practice. And then the first day of bowl practice, the other defensive end from Mission Viejo from California, he tore his ACL. So I remember helping him in his dorm room. And then 2 days later, the last day of padded practice for the week to the weekend, and then I tore my ACL. So we were literally on the beds together with both ACL, MCL surgeries. One of my good friends, DW. I'm Doug Worthington. He's Donald Washington. He's from Indianapolis. I'm from Buffalo, New York. And he was one of those jumpy, fast guys. And he went on a blitz and was given a great look and try to get out of somebody's way and just fell into my knee. So, yeah, that was very tough. I remember I still see pictures because you go to any Roosters or any pubs in this place and they got that Fiesta Bowl when Ohio State beat Notre Dame, and I can still see myself on the sideline on crutches, just chilling watching the game. But think about that and remember when people are going out when they were having fun. I remember getting rehab, working on stretching, working on getting my hamstring back, and I realized during that off season of that freshman year because I was doubting myself like I've never doubted myself before. Being from Buffalo, New York, I was the biggest thing on the field. I had the biggest helmet. My little league, I was the biggest. High school, I was the biggest.
Yeah.
I might not have been the best, but I never had to, but college, it was like, yeah, you regular, you regular and you slow, you a little slow, you slew footed, you run kind of funny, so you got a little bit of catching up to do. So I knew that, and I was not afraid to work at it. And then when he sat me down with the ACL, I knew that this either go time or I might as well try to figure out transferring and getting closer to home. So it was definitely a growth and a growing. It made me start realizing my Bible verses. And one of my first Bible verses I ever remember was James 1 verses 2, 3, and 4. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, when you endure hardships of many kind, because the testing of your faith build perseverance. Let perseverance do its work, so you're lacking nothing. And I had to start reciting that every night just because I was so doubtful and so fearful. I didn't know why God brought me all the way from Buffalo, New York to Columbus, Ohio, if I'm gonna be a bench warmer and I'm gonna get hurt and just be able to, put my cleats up before I even get on the field. So
Mhm.
that wasn't happening. So the resolve in me was really, really built that at that moment.
So when, because we have not touched on this, you are making reference to God all the way through.
Oh yeah.
When did you really accept Jesus and had that relationship? I mean, that real relationship with God. What happened, or
Yeah.
what time frame?
I feel like God, again, I feel like I've lived 4 lives in certain ways, but I just remember having different come to Jesus moments in every little step of my life.
Right.
If it's in the beginning of that Ohio State career and asking God why you brought me here, if it's in the NFL and all the times I got cut, or after that when me and my child mom, and before that it's so many times where I knew that my mom had that picture that was in the about everybody's mom or grandmother had that picture with the footprints, and I just remember what that footprint picture meant to me because he has carried me through so much. And I was actually went to Catholic school the whole entire time. I was
Mhm.
raised Catholic, had my first communion, went to St. Martin de Porres, which my mom still frequents. But then when my mom and dad divorced, I started going to Baptist and non-denominational, and I just learned God for my own self. And I started rocking with him in different ways. But my family, even as small as it was, it has always pushed Jesus and always pushed God being our Lord and Savior. And obviously, God not being done with us was one of my grandma's favorite sayings. So I understood with his grace, I am made whole. And really, I just understood from a short period of time that he gave me a platform, a voice, a size, a presence that he wanted to use me in a lot of different ways. Now, football was a good catalyst. It got me a lot of eyes and a lot of opportunity, even waving my Ohio State brand is something I do in the profession I am now, but it's really to manipulate and let people know about how good the kingdom is and how good it is on this side. So he has been always there, even though it's times I try to shut him out and try to figure it out on my own. He's had a very, very creative role in kind of bringing me and reeling me back. Sometimes it was really, really hard. Other times it was literally almost voices telling me to do certain things. So I just try to be obedient and appreciate everything that he's given me thus far.
Man, first of all, kudos to be able to have a relationship with God in college at the pinnacle. Like you're at Ohio State. I mean, it's like one step away from worship. Okay,
Oh
and
yeah. Oh yeah.
it's like you know what? Thank you, but it's not me, but it's is Christ in me, which is so powerful.
Absolutely.
Number two is that, being drafted in the NFL and, it's a wow, it's man, and moving from team to team to team to team,
Hmm.
that is so tough. But now I understand because you had Christ. And so you were
Yeah.
able to actually endure, the famous, hey, I thought you played well, you show some good things, bring your
Yeah.
playbook and all that
Yeah.
moving a lot. A lot of athletes aren't able to make those transitions. A lot of them get stuck in the process. A lot of them talk about wish it coulda shoulda. A lot of them are still living in the past. Talk to that, how you're able to say, this is what I do, this is not who I am,
Mm.
during going through from team to team, watching your dream versus God's dream, and the actual dichotomy of both, and to move through that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I will first want to just hit on the point where even though I knew I was in fellowships of Christian athletes when I was at Ohio State, I was in athletes in action, but I got a DUI in my junior year, so I was still partying. I
Oh,
still knew what Columbus was.
I
I
didn't
was a
do it on my
hypocrite.
research. I ain't seen the
Yeah, yeah,
DUI.
yeah. I got to listen. I was on a bottom ticker of ESPN, and the biggest thing that they wanted to do and investigate was the fact that I was driving I think at that time, like a 2006 Escalade. They was like, okay, he got a DUI. They do it, but how does he have a $40,000 car? And again, I was very messed up with money, and my parents and things did well by me, so I can afford it. But at that moment, that was a whole debacle. Going forward for your main question being having to deal with Lawrence Wilson my freshman year, having to deal with an ACL my
Mm.
fresh again, all those things is just getting sat down. Even when I got drafted, I mean, I went to the combine, I got hurt, I tore my pec, but I went there to the retryouts. I had like a fourth round grade, a fifth round grade, and I thought I was going to get picked at a certain time. I remember the Baltimore Ravens calling me. It was the second day. They was like, hey, tomorrow's going to be probably your day, man. We're going to see you if we can get you. And every second of the way, I'm thinking they're gonna call me. And then it gets to the seventh round, and I just take a nap. To get drafted and to be disappointed. But I went to my dad's favorite team in the Pittsburgh Steelers. I went down the road. I know Dick LeBeau was there. I was very familiar with the defense that they ran, and I wanted to go to a place like that. I was picked 242, and the first person that came and welcomed me after the rookie camp was a guy named Brett Kiesel, who was an all-time legend there. And he was like, hey, man, you know what pick I was? I was like, no, I don't know what pick you was. He was like, I was picked 242. I was like, oh, shoot. So he was just telling me what I needed to do and how I needed to go about my business. And my roommate, I was the seventh round pick. My roommate was Antonio Brown. So he was picked 195, got number 95. And then I'm not going to tell you I put number 84 on his back, but I was highly influential. Me being 84 at Ohio State, I was like, bro, that 84 will look good for you. So he was my roommate, a good friend of mine, and somebody that I got to see firsthand how he had a chip on his shoulder because him and Emmanuel Sanders were wide receivers drafted in the same draft with the same team. Then you had Ward that was getting out of there. He was aging. Then Santana Holmes that was out of there just happened, went to the Jets. So these two rookie wide receivers being able to be behind a guy named Ziggy Hood was their first round pick the year before. And I honestly thought I was better. I thought I would fit the scheme better. He was like 6'2" with long arms. I'm 6'6" with way longer arms. But, again, it was a great camp. I thought I did amazing. Got picked up on practice squad after they cut me. And then I got cut again. Actually, Thaddeus Gibson, who I just just left. He got drafted 4th round. I got drafted 7th round. We both got drafted to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So it was amazing, but it was kind of hard. I had a chip on my shoulder, but I had so many different stories that was going on simultaneously with like being around Antonio Brown, seeing him and Emmanuel Sanders being almost enemies, to seeing me trying to get in front of the depth chart and trying to figure out how I can get close to Ziggy Hood and not understanding, boy, you a 7th round pick. They're gonna put so much more time in this 1st round pick. They don't care if maybe you fit the bill a little bit better. And then getting ultimately cut again. And Mike Tomlin telling me I can play in this particular league, but just not right now, right here. And saying, hey, everybody's gonna get treated fair, but everybody's not gonna get treated the same. Just so many sound bites that literally were different soundtracks in my head as I had that long journey in the NFL. So it all, as hindsight 2020, it all was for a reason, and it all proved that the season was necessary to go through those lumps, to hear that advice, to hear people tell me no, to see failure and to deal with it firsthand, and then be able to grab yourself and make sure you make the most out of your moments, grab yourself out of the dark ditches and kind of get going. And then I had a lot of good mentors throughout the way. I had a lot of great family members that always used to check on me. They didn't have the trendy names of mental health back then, but I knew to get in my word and sit down and meditate and get quiet and get still. And ultimately, that's what really proved to keep that connection with God and to have Him use me in all the ways that He did.
Wow. So now it's time. The career's over. You're like, I'm done. You made that decision. Maybe you wrote the letter to your last team or whatever. And so now you're figuring out what you want to do. What became, or how was the new passion manifested? In other words, the game on the field is over. So then what has led you to the next game? What's your next passion? What are you doing now? And how are you still winning?
Yeah, so God is good. Playing at St. Louis. St. Louis went to the LA Rams. I started working and thinking about acting. I started thinking about life after football. I was happy to be closer to my pension. I was backing up Hall of Fame Aaron Donald and just picking his brain and building good relationships. And they cut me in camp, and I wasn't completely ready and done. But I had one more workout with the Seattle Seahawks, and I remember not being really ready for it because I was beat up from camp. But I remember them having a room for me with my name on it, and nobody else that was getting worked out that day had that. And then my workout was so poor, but I was just kind of ready to be done. Then they gave me a first class ticket to back home, and I got to talk to actually Warren Moon on the way home, and he was just telling me about his broadcasting and journalism. And I was just thinking like, yeah, this is probably done. Then I just started serving people. The first couple of weeks, I kind of was in my own feelings. I was a new father. I was being a dad. I was really kind of enjoying that. I think God really did well by me. I actually got cut at the Washington Redskins when she was first born. I got a picture with her just in her little Redskin outfit. And then that couple hours later, they cut me after that game. And then I went home and been a father. Then I got picked up by St. Louis. And then, so when I got cut again, and I was just asking my agent, hopefully that all ran and kind of spiraled into a pension, which it later did, but I didn't know at the time. I got still. I got quiet. I started going to church. I wasn't the same guy. My mental health was a little messed up. I probably wasn't the nicest person. I tried to still work out. I went through quite a bit. I worked at Cardinal Health doing pharmaceutical sales for a while, and that just didn't pan out. And then I started selling insurance. But all throughout that, I was working in group homes and I was helping people. I got a DUI, like I said, in college, and the Judge Green, actually helped me to start working with some of the at-risk youth and some of the kids, and started put me in places and talking to people that I could be an impact on that end. So he put a battery in my back, and I kind of never looked back. Like I said, I did the Northwestern Mutual and started selling life insurance policies and financial plans, and I think it's so vital in our community, and I still push it. But I didn't get that passion anymore. I wasn't on a team. I wasn't helping people. Jim Tressel did a great job with the Pay It Forward and having us all around the community with our jerseys on, looking like superstars and rock stars to these kids. So I just try to figure out how I can do that. And then I got around guys like yourself and Roy Hall. And, along with going and visiting kids, I started, working on programs, working on my speech, working on my testimony, and started, talking to kids and teaming up with different community leaders and putting on events and camps and things of that nature. and trying to do whatever I can to kind of, push the narrative. But, God has been blessing me. And I started working with a group home in Dayton called Unk's Place. I loved everything about it. We actually brought one here to Columbus, Ohio. And then the business side of things looked at a little bit funny. And then we exited. Then me and my business partner and friend was blessed to get a license for DD. That's developmental disabled. And I got a nephew who was on an autism spectrum, and a couple other different characteristics, but love the community. And God has just really been faithful. He's literally kind of placed me in a couple areas where I can just help people and I could use my platform. I could use what I do. My former Ohio State self, I try to stay in shape to make people think I still play, to put on a jersey, but to be able to go and talk to a bunch of kids and to work in, with Special Olympics or any other community and other partnerships and trying to give awareness of what's going on in different communities has been a blessing. So again, that's one of the biggest reasons why I'm in Ohio, cold and chilly, because I love Tampa. Playing at Tampa, they picked me up week 8, and I stayed the entire year and was waking up in shorts
You're from
and
Buffalo,
t-shirts on
bro.
Christmas. So, I
You're from
remember you was
Buffalo,
talking
bro.
to your inaugural episode I watched. You were talking to one of your old teammates, and he was talking about living in Tampa and things of that nature, and that was just bringing me back to those old fields. So,
You're from
no, it's a blessing.
Buffalo. You're from
Hey,
Buffalo.
listen, but we tropical people, man. We melanin, brother. I need sunlight.
I know,
This
I know,
cold,
I know.
this cold is
I
different,
know. I'm like
And these
flipping into my
knees,
pistol right now.
listen, these knees, brother, these knees know when it's cold.
Yeah,
Like my
yeah.
body knows when it's gonna snow or rain. My right knee will tell you what the forecast is gonna be. So listen, when I'm in a hot area and my
Yeah.
body is a little bit more in tuned, it's good for the blood flow. It's good for the skin, the energy. So I love Buffalo. I go there, but I couldn't live there. No.
You know what? There's another fact that bringing up in closing. You're also a member of Alpha Phi Alpha, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely, oldest and the coldest.
Awesome, awesome, awesome organization. And that gives you leverage to even do more of what you do.
Absolutely.
So that's huge because life, as you know, as a D lineman, life is about leverage. You always have
Mm-hmm.
to build, maintain, and create leverage every single day. You build your leverage. When you
Well
play,
said.
you get low. When you're in the world, when the game is over, you still have that same mindset. How can I build and create leverage? So, man, this has been fire. I do have a
Man, thank you.
question. People may want to reach out to you, talk with you, connect, maybe help with the youth, or maybe have you come speak. How can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, I'm on most of the social medias, Doug Worthington, Coach_Freshington on Instagram. My email is pretty easy, daworthington58@gmail.com. I'm pretty active. I got a website, douglasworthington.com. So I got a lot of information on there as well. I need to be better, but I'm busy. I'm 365 with my group homes. I love my group homes. I love my staff. I got 70 staff. I got about 40 of them that I love. I got 30 of them that I'm trying to get out of here. God is good. But yeah, I got some great clients that are fun. I had to take one of my clients to get evaluated today, and we got some Tim Hortons like we normally do. God is this. It's a rich life. It's a rich life. I pour into people. I get to take care of people, and I couldn't ask for nothing better to do. So they can reach me. I'm always available. I love being out in the community. We can do it however they need to. God is good, and we'll find a way.
I mean, I'm really upset that we're at the end of this podcast because you just mentioned the fact that you basically run group homes, and that right there is like almost a podcast all in itself. But
Oh man, it
you know
is.
what?
Yeah,
I'm going to
absolutely.
challenge people. I want to challenge people to get in contact with you, look you up, to maybe even do some consulting on that, maybe help out, or even speak about that. I mean, that is an absolute amazing platform.
Well said.
Yeah, you have been a blessing, sir. Thank you so much. Keep winning, keep doing what you're doing, and keep being an inspiration for other athletes who, got the call and then got the other call because the average
Hmm.
lifespan in the NFL is under 3 years.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
so every year there's a lot of people who get that call and they're like, well, what else am I going to do? What
Yeah.
else can I do? And with God, with work ethic, with stick to itness and family,
Mm.
you can make that transition. And if you don't have a family, let the football be your family. That's
Yeah,
powerful.
well said. Well said. I want to give you your flowers. Thank you for what you've done. Thank you for your books. Thank you for your inspiration. Thank you for this platform, right? As an athlete, we definitely sometimes forget and kind of get muddled of how fast life goes. But to be able to have some reflections, you thinking of telling me to think about my little league and thinking about high school, and
Yeah.
for me just to be able to appreciate all the great people that was on my journey just allows me to know that what I'm doing is very, very much so necessary to help others and to be there the way that people were there for me. So I thank you, King. You are a blessing. You're a Big Ten brother. You are a man in the trenches and a man after God's own heart. So thank you for what you do.
Hey, play, praise God, keep winning. Thank you.
Amen.